SpaceX has just given us a rare glimpse into the development of their Starship lunar lander, the vehicle intended to bring American astronauts back to the moon within this decade. But will it actually happen? The journey to a successful lunar landing has been a long one, and public patience is wearing thin. However, this growing sense of urgency seems to have energized SpaceX, and they are on the verge of changing everything we thought we knew about the Artemis moon landing program. The situation begins with politics. Recently, the acting NASA administrator appeared on a financial news program and publicly challenged SpaceX, even suggesting their moon landing contract could be canceled. He stated, "I admire SpaceX, they are an incredible company." This observation holds some truth, as there is a genuine possibility that Chinese astronauts could reach the lunar surface before NASA. However, delays are not solely SpaceX's responsibility. The entire Artemis program is behind its original schedule. Consider the Space Launch System rocket and Orion capsule. Their first uncrewed test flight occurred after more than a decade of development by other aerospace companies. A second flight, which was supposed to carry a crew around the moon in 2024, has not yet happened and is now tentatively planned for the first half of 2026, though the feasibility of that date remains uncertain. Meanwhile, SpaceX has been developing its Starship for roughly 5 years. In that time, they have conducted a total of 22 test flights, many of which successfully demonstrated the launch and even landing of the most powerful rocket ever built. So, the criticism from NASA's leadership might seem a little unfair. Despite this, the administrator raised the stakes further, announcing his intention to open the contract for competition, allowing other companies to bid against SpaceX for the lunar lander work. This refers to the contract NASA awarded to SpaceX back in 2021, a contract that another space company competed for and lost with its own lunar lander proposal. SpaceX was allocated nearly $3 billion to develop a special version of Starship called the Human Landing System, or HLS. This vehicle is slated to carry astronauts to the moon's surface on the Artemis 3 mission, which was originally targeting 2024, then slipped to 2026, and is now hoped for around mid-2027. The acting administrator's comments suggest that even this new timeline might not feel entirely realistic. In response to these public remarks, SpaceX's founder took to social media to voice his strong disagreement, launching personal insults at the administrator and questioning his qualifications. For those unfamiliar with the administrator's background, he is a former competitive lumberjack who gained early fame on a reality television show. Secretary of Transportation before taking on the additional role of acting NASA administrator. So, there might be some validity to the criticism about his experience. However, in the midst of this political turmoil, the White House has put forward a new candidate to lead NASA permanently. Interestingly, this is the same candidate that was considered earlier, a billionaire, jet fighter pilot and astronaut who has performed a spacewalk. This individual also happens to be someone that SpaceX's founder holds in high regard. Coincidentally, the former president had previously expressed serious doubts about this candidate, right around the time he was publicly feuding with the SpaceX CEO. While the political drama is fascinating, the most significant outcome of this entire episode has been a comprehensive new progress update from SpaceX on their lunar Starship. This serves as their proof, demonstrating that the company is living up to recent claims that they are moving at lightning speed compared to the rest of the space industry. This update also hints at an even bolder assertion made in retaliation to the NASA administrator, that Starship will ultimately handle the entire moon mission. So, what exactly does SpaceX want everyone to understand? First, Starship development is currently progressing along two parallel paths. One path has been very public, while the other has been conducted largely in secret until now. Path 1 is the core Starship system, the one we've watched launch, land, and sometimes explode over the past 2 years. It's crucial to know that this entire effort is not primarily for moon missions. The core Starship's ultimate mission is to go to Mars. That is the driving vision behind everything we've seen so far. The funding for this path is not coming from NASA. It is self-funded by SpaceX. However, many new technologies developed for the core Starship will be transferable to other applications, including those not related to Mars. This leads to Path 2, the Lunar Lander, also known as the HLS or Lunar Starship. SpaceX has been working on this specific project since 2022. In that time, they have successfully completed 49 project milestones related to developing the necessary subsystems, infrastructure, and operations for landing astronauts on the moon. This is where the NASA funding has been directed, with payments being made in portions as each milestone is achieved. SpaceX reports that the vast majority of these milestones have been completed on time or even ahead of schedule. Here's a look at what they've accomplished behind the scenes. SpaceX has constructed a full-scale model of the Lunar Starship's interior cabin, the living quarters for astronauts on the moon. They have used this model to test life support, temperature, and humidity control systems with multiple people inside. The exact location of this test model isn't publicly known. Furthermore, SpaceX has been using another full-scale model of the entire lander to conduct drop tests. These tests are designed specifically to evaluate the landing legs on simulated moon soil and study how the feet interact with the ground. So, somewhere out there, a full-size Starship with landing legs has been lifted and dropped onto a fake lunar surface, all away from public view. We have seen a test rig for the airlock and elevator, developed in partnership with the company creating the new lunar spacesuits. This has allowed potential crew members to practice using the elevator and moving from the airlock to the surface while wearing a fully pressurized suit identical to what they will use on the actual mission. Then there's the Starship Fuel Depot, another variant being developed alongside the lunar lander. While the depot is a key part of the Mars mission, it shares many design elements with the HLS. For instance, both are painted white to reflect sunlight and keep the interior cool. The depot will store rocket fuel instead of people, which is in some ways more challenging, because liquid oxygen and methane must be kept at temperatures below -100 degrees Celsius to prevent them from boiling away. Consequently, the depot uses similar power generation and temperature control systems that will later support astronauts on the moon. SpaceX has performed small-scale propellant transfer tests, but a full-scale transfer of super-cold fuel from one spacecraft to another has never been attempted by anyone before. Another critical test involves Starship's docking adapter. This is the mechanism that will allow the lunar lander and the Orion capsule to meet up in lunar orbit and enable crew transfer between the two vehicles. SpaceX has also conducted lunar landing throttle tests with the Raptor engines, essentially running the engines through a simulated moon landing scenario and controlling the thrust to mimic a gentle touchdown. Additionally, they have performed Raptor cold start tests, where ultra-cold cryogenic fuel is used to deep freeze the engine. simulating the conditions it will face after a long duration in the frigid vacuum of space. The goal is to ensure the engine can still ignite and perform reliably. SpaceX is also conducting micrometeoroid and orbital debris impact testing. They take the materials intended for the HLS exterior, such as body panels and windows, and shoot projectiles at them to see how well they withstand impacts in space or on the moon. These tests are also performed under harsh thermal conditions, simulating the extreme heat and cold the vehicle will encounter, to confirm the materials remain strong at any temperature. The software is another vital component. It must autonomously locate a safe landing site on the moon and guide the Starship down to the surface. This involves testing the actual flight computers that will run the landing software, along with all the accompanying cameras, sensors, and radar that will help the computer navigate. A robust communication system is also essential, using radio frequencies to maintain contact with Earth during flight. Similarly, a medical system is needed since there won't be a doctor on board. This requires a very reliable communication link with medical professionals back on Earth in case of an emergency. All these efforts combined represent a massive amount of work that has been progressing mostly out of the public eye at SpaceX. So, what comes next? This is where things get particularly interesting. In their update, SpaceX states that Starship remains the fastest path to returning humans to the lunar surface and is a core enabler for establishing a permanent, sustainable presence on the moon. They note that they have been consistently responsive as NASA's requirements for Artemis 3 have changed, and have shared ideas on how to simplify the mission to align with national priorities. In response to recent developments, they are formally assessing a simplified mission architecture that they believe will result in a faster return to the moon, while also improving crew safety. What does simplified mission architecture mean? It's difficult to say precisely, because the Starship system, by its nature, is incredibly complex. It was designed from the ground up to be ambitious. This brings us back to the social media post claiming that Starship will end up doing the whole moon mission. The underlying idea seems to be simplifying the mission by removing the other rocket and spacecraft from the equation entirely. This would mean launching the crew on a Starship, landing on the moon and bringing them back, all using a single vehicle. There is one thing the lunar Starship cannot do: land on Earth. It lacks a heat shield and wings, and adding them now would undo much of the work already completed. However, it could use its docking port to link up with a Dragon capsule in orbit, and we know Dragon capsules can safely return people to Earth. Alternatively, a mission could launch a Dragon capsule first and have it link up with a Starship already in Earth orbit. When you consider it, SpaceX already possesses most of the components required to conduct a moon landing entirely on its own. This would effectively transform a project involving 3 major contractors down to just one. That would certainly qualify as a simplified mission architecture. Until recently, it seemed unlikely that NASA would ever agree to such a plan. However, with the former president reintroducing his preferred candidate to lead NASA, SpaceX may find itself with significantly more freedom to pursue their preferred approach. For the former president, the primary goal is achieving a moon landing before his term concludes. He may not be particularly concerned with the details, regardless of any past personal disputes. The year 2026 is shaping up to be pivotal. We may witness astronauts flying close to the moon on the Artemis 2 mission, and we will likely get a definitive answer on how they will finally land on the moon with Artemis 3. Unfortunately, we can probably expect plenty more political maneuvering along the way. If you found this look into the future of moon exploration fascinating, please show your support by subscribing to the channel, giving this video a like, and sharing it with anyone who might be interested.